The other day I had a spontaneous conversation with a woman at a coffee shop. They were reading a book called How to Do Nothing. In this digital age of hyperactivity, we have to remember that doing nothing is an important form of rest. Surrender on the spiritual path accepts that we're a human body with human needs, and we need to rest to be well. Welcome everyone. I'm Jim Tolles. I'm a spiritual freedom teacher. That means I help you to be free from your ego. This is different than other teachers who are teaching you how to feel better or to follow social rules. I've been blogging regularly at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. You can go there to read more, sign up to the free newsletter, and to get in touch with me if you're interested in sessions. Because I can tell you, having unfortunately done a lot of my work on my own, that the longest, slowest, and dumbest way to try and do this work is on your own. Or rather, it's not even on our own. It's through these indirect interactions. What's happening right now is you are indirectly interacting with me. I have no idea how you're responding to what I'm saying, and you can pull out whatever your ego is going to choose to pull out. And that's what's going to happen. So you're going to remember the parts of this that fit your ego story. That includes the parts that you don't like. And the ego that's just trying to find something that it doesn't like will remember that. The ego that's trying to find something it likes, that's what you're going to remember. And the truth often is lost in between. As such, I invite you to move through the fear of reaching out, about having sessions. Stop moving. Stop scrolling, stop swiping, stop traveling, stop working. Just stop. Now more than ever, the practice of breathing come back to awareness are these little micro stops, but we need more than that. I really feel like since COVID-19, people have been in this flight response of like trying to do everything with that unconscious fear that maybe they're not going to get the chance. But when you're trying to do everything, you're exhausting yourself. You're so lost in stimulation and excitement that you barely even really feel the moment and the experience. Stop moving. Stop looking for more information. Stop reading as much stuff. Make what you do and what you read and where you go meaningful by just doing that one thing. Let your nervous system rest. In this day and age, so many people are coming to spirituality to soothe really dysregulated nervous system. Trauma is a big part of that. That's why most of you are watching me. But for others of you, this constant stimulation is a huge problem, and a part of you is upset. And so I have students come to me and they're doing meditation or breath work, coming back to awareness, and they're like, it's not working. It's like, what are we talking about? That immediately tells me somebody's trying to soothe something, not release ego. And then we start to get into the problems like, oh, it's this massive trauma. Well, meditation by itself is not going to fix all that. Or it's a 65-hour work week. It's like meditation is not going to change the fact that you're not supposed to work the way you're working for 65 hours a week. And then the ego comes in and has to justify why it has to do all these things, and that is the trap of suffering. We're really good at justifying all the crazy crap we do to ourselves and taking zero responsibility. And on that note, let's be clear that there's individual responsibility and communal responsibility. If you're listening to this video today, I'm part of serving the purpose of communal responsibility to point things out to you so that you can be aware of it. Community is supposed to do a lot of different things, like putting us into positions where we can succeed, not telling us to endlessly work and do everything by ourselves and to sicken our bodies with terrible nutrition. That is a dysfunctional community, and I want to be clear that that's a problem. You can't fix communal problems. However, you can fix individual problems. And what's going on in your own system, what you put in your body, how you breathe, and how you rest. You're responsible for the parts that you're responsible for. And honestly, right now, as you wake up out of your own delusions on this path, you're going to see that you've never really owned responsibility for what's happening in yourself. You've just been reacting. And you're going to see a society that is not owning responsibility. Instead, even when it's wrong, it doubles down. This has become a phrase in the last decade. Double down or triple down when you are objectively wrong, just obviously badly wrong. We're just going to hold on tighter. And that just makes everyone suffer more. And nobody cares about what's real or what the truth is or any of that stuff. And that's scary because it's leading towards violence. The hyperactivity and the exhaustion and the isolation that this hyper-individuality creates is leading towards violence. This is not a happy time to wake up to. It's another reason why. In a previous video, I talked about how the ego likes to blame awakening and say, oh, I don't want to see all this. It's like, well, this is what's here. And it's getting worse because individuals aren't taking responsibility. Communities aren't taking responsibility. You need to do your part, and you have to stop. In the stopping, you're going to go through a stimulation detox. Stopping includes the media-free day. That's a blog post that I have down in the links. Media-free was the way it always was. To not be looking at your phone incessantly, not be looking at the computer screen or the television, not having your noise plugged into your ears with these goddamn earbuds. Get those things out of your head and listen to life. And guess what? You may need a little extra time if you're really turned up. And going through any detox of any sort of addiction, and stimulation addiction is now a very real one that we need to talk about, means you're going to feel crappy while your hormones rebalance. And you're going to want the addiction back. With things like the phone, you just tell your friends, like, hey, I'm having a media-free day. I may be delayed in responding. And if you do use it, you only use it to actually see a person in person. Stop moving. And it can be a really powerful experience to go on these 7-day or 14-day silent meditation retreats because that's really where people are enforced to stop moving. And they're usually eating better, out in a beautiful area with less pollution of all kind, noise pollution, light pollution, air pollution. Right? It's suddenly a much healthier space, and then you feel a whole bunch of shock on top of whatever internal content you've already brought into that space. So the first couple of days can be quite powerful just by stopping. And I think a lot of people get confused by some of the progress they feel on the spiritual path through just stopping. Why do they get confused? They get confused because they think surrender means doing nothing. No, you're just going through a stimulation detox and you're allowing your hormones and the rest of you to calm down enough to even think straight. Because when you're going so quickly, you're not thinking straight. You're just in that wheel of doing the next thing. And you don't really know why you're doing what you're doing. You're just trying to get to the thing after that. Now, when I talk about the stillness of awareness, it's not a feeling. When we come back to that stillness, and that's a practice you can do at any time. That goes with you everywhere. You come back to that stillness to observe usually how unstill you are and how revved up you are. And that can be kind of shocking. And the first time you do that may be what somebody calls a spiritual awakening or a spiritual opening, something that's more temporary. Where you realize, wow, my mind is screaming, my heart is racing, and my gut is in knots. And before, the second before, you thought you were fine. And these are part of the disorientations that I help people through in my one-on-one work. Because you thought you were fine, but you're not. You were just too numbed up and overstimulated to feel anything. And so we slowed the car down from 100 miles per hour or 150 kilometers per hour, whatever system you want to use. And now we're going at like 100 kilometers per hour, going at 60 miles per hour. And you've got just a little bit more space to cool down the engine. And if you keep slowing it down, you're going to feel more. And if you really want to understand what's going on in your world, you stop the car and you just be still. For some of you, this will lead to all kinds of revelations very easily. It's not hard to help people have realizations and spiritual revelations. But usually what's going to make it hard is your ego is going to do something. It's going to say, I can't stop. I can't stop. This is the most predictable response that's going to come out of somebody. It's like, I can't stop. And then fill in the excuse. Ultimately, when we dig into ego excuses, they end up going several very common ways. It's like, my partner's going to leave me. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to die. I'm going to be cold and alone in the street. I'm going to lose my house, right? It's just very common things. My family won't like me anymore. These are the very common responses that when we do this work, we see it. And they're laughable, except for in the moment, they feel true. This is why I run online communities too, is to help bring people together so you can other voices that denormalize this. Say like, no. And you'll have other people, in addition to myself, who are like, we stopped and we were fine. We weren't comfortable with ourselves for a while, and then we found out that it was just us making ourselves uncomfortable. Although it tends to be more complicated because there's so many other things that we're doing to make ourselves unwell. And that's part of this work too, is when you're still, if you're doing things that make you feel unwell, you're going to be confronted by them. You're going to have to surrender and say, yep, this is happening. You're going to have to trust someone like myself or somebody else that says, okay, here's the next step. Just one step, but it's important. The next step so that you start to feel well so you don't go back to the stimulation, whatever it is, whether it's work, whether it's substances, whether it's constantly traveling someplace else, whether it's media, whatever you're doing to distract from yourself, that has to stop long enough so you can feel what's going on and then you can correct it. And when you feel better and stronger and clearer in yourself, that validates it and makes it less likely that you're going to go back to do the thing. And this is a messy transitional area with a whole bunch of backsliding. It is what it is. Stop moving. Face your fear. Because oftentimes, when you stop, you're going to find a whole well of anxiety that's coming up saying, oh, I can't. And it's like, yeah, you can. You can, and you need to. And the stopping is where the doorway to deeper self-understanding and deeper inquiry is. In the stopping, you can start to get to work on resolving and letting go of your ego. Once again, I'm Jim Tolles. You can find more at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. Please share this video with just one person for whom you think this would be meaningful. Bye for now.